I'm now moving on to question 9 from section 1.5, and for question number 9, we'll be working with radicals now, and we need to assume that all variables are positive. Now, when we're dealing with radicals, we're dealing with these kind of expressions, the root sign, and we'll have different index values for a lot of these problems, and one of the kind of formulas that you need to know for this section is that when you're given a radical, you have to be able to write it as a power as 1 over the index. So remember, this is called the index number, and if you want to write that as a power, it's going to be the inside to the power of 1 over the index number. All right, so how do I apply that for question 9a? Well, the index here is a 4, so we take the inside, which is a 4, and we raise it to the power of 1 over 4, where this is your index. Okay, so that's step number 1 when you're dealing with radicals. You want to change it into a power, and then after that, I would recommend changing your base into changing the base if you can to something that could maybe help you simplify the fraction. So I know 4 is the same thing as 2 to the power 2. So instead of writing 4, I'll write 2 to the power 2. And once you do that, hopefully you can find something that you can simplify. And let me just kind of write this 1 over 4 a little bit closer here. And if you multiply 2 times a quarter, 2 times a quarter is going to be a half. So this is going to be 2 to the power of 1 half. Now, although this answer is correct, you should also be able to convert this back into a radical. So anything to the power of 1 half is really just the square root of the inside. So that's the inside there. And once again, anytime you have a half, that's the same thing as the square root of the base. So square root 2 is your final answer for 9a. All right, for letter B here, I know the index here is now 3, so how do I write this as a power? Well, we take the inside, which is 8 to the power 6, and we raise it to the power of 1 over the index number, which is 1 over 3. Now from there, I would recommend students to multiply the powers here. So this is going to be 8 to the power of 6 divided by 3. So 6 times 1/3 is 6 divided by 3. And to further simplify this, one thing that students can do now is how can you write 8? Can you write that as a something with a base to the power 3 perhaps? So I know that 2 to the power 3 is going to be 8. So instead of writing 8, I can write 2 to the power 3. And you'll notice that the 6 over 3 is going to be on the outside still. And hopefully you can simplify this, which we can. The 3's cancel off, and now you're given 2 to the power of 6. Now 2 to the power 6 is the correct answer, but 2 to the power 6 is going to be 64. Okay, so one of the things that students need to be comfortable in this section is if you're given like a base of 8, you got to be able to break that down into like 2 to the power 3, or into like a smaller base with a power. Okay, so we're probably going to do that for letter C as well. So the index here is an 8, so this is going to be 16 to the power 3, and that'll be raised to the power of 1 over 8. And if you go ahead and multiply the powers here, you get 16 to the power of 3 over 8. And then from there, I would recommend breaking down the 16 into a smaller base. So I know 16 is the same thing as 2 to the power 4. So let's write 2 to the power 4. And then you have your 3 over 8. And when you do that, now you can multiply the 3 over 8 with the 4. So that's the same thing as 2 to the power of, well, 4 times 3 is 12, so 12 over 8. And if you simplify that, that's the same thing as 12 to the power of, you can divide top and bottom by 4, so that's going to be 3 over 2. And although this is a correct answer here, there's definitely a little bit more work that you can do. I know that 2 to the power 3 is going to be 8, so this is really 8 to the power of 1 half. And remember, whenever you have a 1 half, that's the same thing as the square root of 8. So the square root of 8 is correct. And if you learn to simplify this in the next section here, that's the same thing as 2 root 2. But root 8 is a totally acceptable answer for this particular problem here. Okay, let's move on to letter D here. Once again, the index is a 3, so the 27 to the power 2, let's just leave that alone. And let's raise this to the power of 1/3. And then after that, you want to multiply the exponents. So that's going to be 27 to the power of 2 over 3. And then ask yourself, is there any way I can break down this 27 into a smaller base? You can. That's 3 to the power of 3. And then the 2/3, let's just leave that outside as that. And you'll notice that the 3's cancel, and now you're left with 3 to the power of 2, which is going to be 9. So 9 is your final answer for letter D. So as you go through these kind of problems, the same kind of theme kind of comes up. You identify your index. The inside stays the same initially, so 9 to the power 3, and then write your index as 1 over 12. So now you've written your radical as a total power now. After that, I would multiply the exponents here. So this is going to be 9 to the power of 3 over 12. Then I would simplify that as 9 to the power of 1 over 4. And I guess that's just going to be, is there anything else that we can do here? Yep, I can rewrite the 3 as, I can rewrite the 9 as 3 to the power 2. And then the 1 over 4 will still tag along. So quite a bit of simplifying we can do here, and if I multiply the 2 and the quarter, I get 3 to the power of 1/2, right? So 2 times a quarter is a half, and anything to the power half is just the square root of that number. So the square root of 3 is my final answer for letter E. Okay, moving on to F now. So my index here is 8, so 4 to the power 2 remains, and I have 1 over 8 there. And then I can multiply 2 and the 1 over 8, so that's going to be 4 to the power of 2 over 8. So 2 over 8 like that. And that's the same thing as 4 to the power of 1 over 4. And then I would just simplify the base here. So 4 is the same thing as 2 to the power 2. And then the 1 over 4 can tag along. And if you multiply these two exponents together, 2 times a quarter is going to be a half. So this is 2 to the power of a half. And 2 to the power half is just root 2. Okay, so a lot of multiplying fractions and simplifying fractions for question number 9. Okay, let's move on to G here. Okay, my index here is now a 4, so the a to the power 2 remains, and I can raise that to the power 1 over 4. Then now we can multiply the exponents there, so 2 times a quarter is going to be a half, and anything to the power half is just the square root of that base, so root A is the final answer for that one. Right, for letter H here, let me just erase that. The index here is a 9, so the inside stays the same, and then I raise everything to the power of 1 over the index number. And then just like the previous problems, you can multiply the exponents, so b to the power of 3 over 9, which is the same thing as a b to the power of 1/3. So b to the power of 1/3 is a correct answer, and if you want to change that back into a radical, the index goes on the outside, and then b remains on the inside. So the cube root of b is the final answer for that. Right, for letter I, the index is 6, so c to the power 4, 1 over 6. After that, you can multiply the exponents, so 4 times 1/6 is 4 over 6. And if you simplify the fraction there, that's the same thing as 2/3. And the bottom number here, that's your index, so that's going to be 3 square root, and basically this part here in blue goes on the inside. So the cube root of c squared. Right, letter J, the index here is 8, so d squared, and then in brackets 1 over the index number. I recommend multiplying the exponents there, so d to the power of 2 over 8, and 2 over 8 is the same thing as 1 over 4. And this is a correct answer, but let's go ahead and write this in radical form there. So the index goes there, and just d goes on the inside. Okay, so that's it for question number 9. Let's now move on to question number 10. Now for question number 10, we're still dealing with radicals, but I can tell right away that we have to be pretty good with adding fractions here. So let's get ready for that. Anyways, when you have a square root of any number, like the square root of 2, if you want to write that as a power, that's going to be 2 to the power of 1/2 times. Now the index here is going to be a 3, and the inside number is a 2, so the inside number 2 remains, and if I write this as a power, it's going to be 1 over the index number, which is 1 over 3. Okay, so this is correct here so far, and if the bases are the same, we're just adding the powers here. So notice that our denominators are not the same, so we want to make sure we have the correct denominator there, because we'll be adding these. So you want to multiply this first fraction by a 3, and that by a 3, and this by a 2, and that by a 2. So now I have 2 to the power of 3 over 6 plus, basically a 2 over 6 if I multiply the other fraction by 2. And now the denominators are the same, so now I can add the tops, which is 2 to the power of 5 over 6. Now, although this is correct, we should try to simplify this as much as possible. The 6 means the index will be a 6, and I'm left with basically this 2 to the power of 5, so the 2 to the power of 5 goes on the inside. Now 2 to the power of 5 is 32, so 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's 32, so my final answer is the 6th root of 32. So that's my final answer for 10A. So once again, there's a little bit of work here, a lot of arithmetic, so make sure that you are good with those particular skills. Okay, 10B. Once again, if I have a square root, I can write that as a power. That's 3 to the power of 1/2 times. Now the index here is a 4, so that's going to be 3 to the power of 1 over 4. Now, since we're multiplying and the bases are the same, I know I'm going to add the fractions together, so I want to make sure I have the same denominator, so I can multiply that by 2 and that by a 2. If I do that, I get 3 to the power of 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4. So the denominators are the same now, so this is 3 to the power of 3 over 4. Okay, although that's correct answer here, let's kind of write this in radical form here. So here's the 4, that's going to be the index. And then what remains is 3 to the power of 3. So 3 to the power of 3 goes on the inside. And if I completely simplify this, 3 to the power of 3 is going to be 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. So the 4th root of 27 is the final answer for that particular question. So I would say a lot of these questions do require a little bit more work here. So let's do our best to kind of make sure we avoid the simple mistakes. If I have to write the first radical as a power, it would be 2 to the power of 1/3 times 2 to the power of 1 over 4. Okay, so now I need to kind of make sure that I have the same denominators here. So I can multiply the first one by 4, and then I can multiply the second one by a 3. And if I do that, I get 2 to the power of 4 over 12 plus 3 over 12. All right, so since the denominators are the same, I can add the numerators, which is 7 over 12. And if I want to write this back into a radical, the 12 is right there, so that's going to be the 12th root of 2 to the power 7. And for all these, you do need to simplify as much as you can. 2 to the power 7 is going to be 128, so the 12th root of 128. Okay, let's move on to letter D now. Once again, you want to take your radical and write that as a power, so that's 4 to the power of 1 over the index number, so 4 to the power 1/3 divided by 4 to the power of 1 over 4. All right, so when we're dividing, we want to subtract the powers, and I would say that we want to times the top here by 4 and that by 4. So if I do that, I get 4 to the power of 4 divided by 12, and then by times the bottom here by 3 and a 3, I get minus 3 divided by 12. Okay, so since the denominators are the same, I can now concentrate on the numerator. So 4 minus 3 is going to be 1, so that's going to be 1 over 12. Okay, so this is a correct answer here. Let's see if we can do a little bit more work to it. So if I look at the 4 here, which is the base, I can write that as 2 to the power of 2. And then I can have the power on the outside. And then if I multiply these two numbers together, it's going to be 2 to the power of 1 over 6. Now that's a great answer. And if I had to change this to a radical form, the 6 is there, and then the 2 is on the inside there. So the 6th root of 2 is a final answer. Okay. All right, 27 here, square root of 27, so that's going to be 27 to the power of 1/2 divided by 9 to the power of 1/3. All right, so we got rid of the radicals, and we have powers here, and now what we need to do now is we've got to make sure that the 27 and the 9 are written in the same base. So 27 is the same thing as 3 to the power of 3, and the 1/2 is on the outside. And 9 is the same thing as 3 to the power 2. And then the 1/3 is on the outside there. So if I continue on here, I'm going to the bottom here. If I go ahead and multiply the powers here, I get 3 to the power of 3 over 2, all divided by 3 to the power of 2/3. Okay, so a bit more work to do because we've got to make sure that the denominators are the same here. So I can times this by 3, that by 3, that by 2, and that by 2. If I do that, I get 3 to the power of 9 over 6 minus, I guess I have, 4 over 6 at the bottom here. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 2 is 6. Perfect. So if I continue here, this will be 3 to the power of 5 over 6 is the final answer there. And if I want to change this back to radical form here, the 6 would be on the index like that, and then you have 3 to the power 5. If you know what 3 to the power 5 is, it's actually 243. So if I want to get rid of that, I can write this as 243 as well. All right, so that is letter E there. Okay, let's move on to letter F now. So I do think these questions, they're not trivial questions. You do need to play around with them and be comfortable with simplifying these expressions. If I need to simplify the numerator there, that'll be 16 to the power of 1/3 over 8 to the power of 1 over 4. All right, and after that, you want to look at your bases, and you want to make sure you're writing them down using a smaller base. So 16 is the same thing as 2 to the power 4 with the 1/3 there. And 8 is the same thing as 2 to the power 3. And we'll have the 1 over 4 on the outside. And just like the previous problem, you want to multiply the powers there. So this would be 2 to the power of 4/3 over 2 to the power of 3/4. Okay. And then since the bases are the same, you are subtracting, so make sure that you have a common denominator here. So times that by 3. Actually, not by 3. I guess I'll times this by 4. So times that by 4, that by 4, this by 3, and that by 3. So if I do that, I get 2 to the power of 16 over 12 minus 9 over 12, which is 2 to the power of. Now 16 minus 9, that's going to be about 7, so 7 over 12. And if I have to write that in radical form, the 12 is on the index, and then 2 to the power 7. And 2 to the power 7, if you can do that, that's going to be 128. So the 12th root of 128. Good. All right, let's move on to the next few questions here, the last 4 questions in this homework video guide. Okay, so what's going on with letter G here? So with letter G, I can tell right away that you want to write all these bases. They're all different right now. I have a half, I have an 8, and a 4, and you want to make sure that you're writing everything with the same base. So this is one way. This is how you could do. Let me just show you a few ways on how you can do this. Let's start with this 8x. I know 8 is the same thing as 2 to the power 3. So 2 to the power 3, and then the x just tags along like that. And then divided by, well, 4 is the same thing as 2 to the power 2. And then the x there just tags along. So that x is that right there. Good. Okay, now the question is, how do I deal with this 1/2 to the power of x? Okay, so if you had to write this as a negative power, 1/2 is the same thing as 2 to the power of -1. So this will be 2 to the power of -1, and then the x will tag along. Okay, so after that, what we're going to do next is we're going to simplify this as much as we can. If I multiply that, multiply that, multiply that, let's just see what happens. I get 2 to the power of -x times 2 to the power of 3x, and then I'll divide that by 2 to the power of 2x. And now the bases are all the same, so now you're going to add the tops, the powers of the tops. So this will be -x plus 3x. And since we're dividing, so that means we subtract that. So that's going to be -2x. And if you look at this polynomial expression here, negative x plus 3x minus 2x is going to be 0. So this is going to be 2 to the power 0, which is going to be equal to 1. All right, so quite a bit of work on that one. Hopefully h will be a little bit easier. I see a 3x there, so I can leave that as low as 3x. There's a 27, so 27 is the same thing as 3 to the power 3. And then that x is tagging along, divided by, now this 9 here is the same thing as 3 to the power 2, and then the x will tag along. Okay, after that, I would just multiply the powers there. So if I do that, I get 3 to the power of x times 3 to the power 3x, all divided by 3 to the power 2x. And then from here, you are just going to add the tops. So x plus 3x is going to be a 4x. And then by minus the 2x, that'll be 2x, right? So 4x minus 2x is 2x. So 3 to the power of 2x is my... I believe that's my final answer for that one. Sorry, I was just kind of looking at the answer key, and they do want you to simplify this a little bit more. So 3 to the power 2 is going to be 9, so that'll be 9x as well. So I mean, this is definitely an acceptable answer, and this might be a little bit of a better answer. So I'll take either one on a test. Okay, let's continue on here. I think the last few here, I'm going to try to do a little bit faster here, just to kind of speed up this video here. Starting with this 1/3, I mean, 1/3 is the same thing as 3 to the power negative 1. And then the x tags along. And then 81 is the same thing as 3 to the power of 4. And then the x tags along. And then on the bottom, 27 is the same thing as 3 to the power 3. And then the x tags along. Okay, so if I go ahead and multiply this through, that's going to be 3 to the power negative x times 3 to the power of 4x, all divided by 3 to the power 3x. Okay, now you want to simplify the top, so negative x minus 4x is going to be 3 to the power 3x, and then the bottom is the same thing. And if the top and bottom are the same, I mean, they just cancel off and you just get 1. So 1 is your final answer for that one. Moving on to the letter J, let me just highlight those. So I have 5 to the power negative x. 125 is the same thing as 5 to the power of 3. And the 2x goes there. All divided by, well, 25 is the same thing as 5 squared, and then the 3x. And then from there, you can multiply the exponents. So this will be 5 to the power negative x, 5 to the power of 6x, all over 5 to the power of 6x. And then you'll notice that these guys will cancel off, and you're left with just 5 to the power negative x. And that's your final answer for that one. All right, so that's it for this homework video guide. Thank you.